Which also I'm like, why are your parents hanging out with your ex-fiance? Like, if I have an ex-fiance and I like run up to my parents, I like hope they're not hanging out with them.
It was silly. Like those
Yeah.
old women were literally clutching their pearls, like literal pearls literally clutched as that weenie of a man says, Alexandria.
A quick little note about this week's episode of Dutton Rules. Bily's audio is lower quality than you might be used to due to a recording error. Don't worry, we have identified what went wrong, and we do apologize for the less than ideal experience.
Hello, Adison.
Hello, Bily. Well, it is nice and a balmy 80 degrees in Texas, but you know what? Winter has hit Montana.
I know we usually get right to trivia, but this tripped me up a little bit. Is this the next day? Because the sheriff said he was going to arrest Banner the next morning, and then all of a sudden there's snow on the ground. Was there a snowstorm overnight, or is this a few days later? Because the timeline matters here.
Oh my gosh, Billy, I can't believe I can't believe I didn't even think about that. My brain went like, oh, it's wintertime now. Oh my gosh, you're so right. Or maybe that was just one of those like plot line holes that, if we're being honest, sometimes Taylor, there's some loose ends here that we're like,
Sure.
We never really tied this one up. So I'm gonna lean towards maybe he just wasn't thinking through what he had written.
Yeah, I'm going to assume it was sometime later, a week later, 2 weeks later, or something like that.
Okay.
But you're right. It may not matter in the big picture. That was the first thing that came to my mind when this episode opened. It's like, oh, snow on the ground. Where are we at? What's going on now? Now they messing with the timeline again, because 1923 messed with the timeline intentionally earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, we can get into this a little bit later. But let's do trivia, and then we can kind of flow back.
Billy Dukes does not mess with his Yellowstone timeline.
Well,
okay, what was this? Okay, let us begin with, before we jump into this episode, let's start with who gets. This is no longer going to be called trivia. This is going to be called Bily's Daily Affirmations. And who is the winner of Bily's? Actually, sorry, before we get to the winner, what was the question last week?
The question focused on the ship captain that Spencer and Alex come upon, and the guy who ends up marrying them. Actor Joseph Mawley, and you might have recognized him from Game of Thrones. He was in a handful of episodes, but there's another character on the show who is in many, many more episodes of Game of Thrones. And this was actually a relatively easy trivia question. If you watched Game of Thrones, you knew, and if you didn't, it was a really easy Google. Jerome Flynn, who plays Banner, was a character named Bronn on Game of Thrones, and he was one of the standout characters. So that was the question and answer. And this week, the winner, first in, with the right answer, ladies and gentlemen, hailing from parts unknown, Christine with the win! Congratulations, Christine! It is your day. We are raising you up on our virtual shoulders. We will ease you through the day. All things are going to be easy and fruitful for Christine on this day today. Buy yourself a lottery ticket. Ask that guy out you've been talking to, or girl, whichever way you go. I don't really care. This is your day, Christina. Take a chance with your husband. Do something a little bit different. Have that serious conversation. It's going to respond well. Your kids, if you have them, they're going to obey you today, and they may clean the house for you. Ask them. All things will work well for Christine today.
Wow, you're having her potential kids, if she has any, cleaning her house, Bily.
I may be projecting a little bit there because...
Bily, do you need your kids to clean your home?
No, we got after it yesterday. I had my kids. Oh, my kids were working hard yesterday. Bathrooms, windows. I'm like, all right,
wow.
You missed last week. Go clean my cars. Get all that trash out of there. It's all your trash anyway. Oh no,
gosh, amazing.
We were on it yesterday.
You're like, sorry, no, actually, been there, done that.
Yeah. Oh no.
Wow. That was truly amazing. What is this week? What is this week's trivia question?
Okay, I asked this trivia question kind of for a reason. It'll become a little bit more apparent as we talk. But the question is, which country and city, if you know it, where Alexandria and
Mhm.
Spencer in when they first met?
Can I guess? Well, I won't guess.
No, you can't guess.
Okay.
You can't.
Just wanted
Stop.
to
You can't.
ask.
You can't play along, Adison. I'm not going to give you the day.
Dang it.
Sorry.
I'll email as an anonymous person. Oh man. Okay. Where do we well, I actually know where we should start today. It was scenes that, at least for me, and I'm sure people listening, it was very hard to watch. I listened because I knew we were going to talk about it, but I feel, I mean, Teonna is who we should start talking about if you're down. I know it's like it was so
Yeah.
impactful and at the same time so heavy and so hard to watch. Yeah,
Let's rip the Band-Aid off there, I
let's
think. I
do
mean, that
it.
was the episode for me. That was the plot
Mhm.
line. And I really want to talk a lot about Spencer and Alex just because they're so much fun to talk about. Not a lot happened on the Yellowstone Ranch, even though one big event did occur, but this was really about Teonna, and
Mhm.
she kind of gets justice, but I don't know. To you, was her justice satisfying?
No, because it came with the repercussion of multiple people dying. Hank dies, which
Yeah.
made me sad, as he was trying to protect her and take care of her. We don't know about, so who was the young boy?
Pete.
Pete.
Pete Plenty Clouds is his name.
Well, and so he gets taken by the priests.
Right.
So I just feel like a lot of people in the wake of her being saved or, victorious, whatever you want to say, a lot of people, like, there were casualties in the wake. Her grandma, like, there was just a lot. So I don't know. For me, there was like a lot of people who I feel like deserved to live, and died because of her. I mean, in all reality.
It was messy. It was messy. Let me back up and set the scene a little
Mhm.
bit. Um, we knew that the priest's men were going to catch up with Teonna at some point. He had sent 3 men
Mhm.
to bring her back to the Catholic school. And that happens on this
Mhm.
episode, and it happens in 2 different fronts. First is we meet Pete Plentyclouds, who is Hank's father, and the actor is named Cole Brings Plenty, and this is either the son or the nephew to Mo Brings Plenty, who is Mo on
Mhm.
Yellowstone. The internet kind of disagrees on this. He meets up with Teonna's father and says, "You got to come." On his way back, he comes upon, or the priests come upon him, and they kind of harass him. And after some physical violence, one of them ends up kidnapping Pete
Mhm.
and is going to take him back to the Catholic school, to their Catholic school. That does not end well for the priest. And it
No.
doesn't because Tiona's father comes across them just as the priest is going to kill Pete. He comes across, and this scene was, I don't know, it's tough to watch a scalping and not feel a little nauseated. It- but I don't know, were you able to hang in there through that
But I mean,
part?
even us talking about it right now, I'm like, oh gosh. Yes, let's just put it this way. If I was not covering it for work, would I have fast forward? Absolutely. Or muted. But I was so worried I was going to lose like some dialogue or something important. I did not look. Um, but I kept the audio on, which we really can argue is just as bad. I hung in there, but I was like holding on by a pinky. Did you? I'm assuming your wife left the room. There's no way she stayed for that one.
She covered her eyes.
Yeah, I don't blame
No
her.
doubt about it. And it's not just the scalping, which was pretty gruesome.
Mhm.
Like after that, and the character's name is Runs his horse. That's Tiona's father's name. They don't know what to do with the body,
Yeah.
and he tells Pete to go stand by the horses. And you think he's going to take care of the body, like he's going to hide it somewhere, maybe throw it in the fire or something. Had to be really
Continue. I just hate this.
struggling with. I think he eats his heart.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
that's what happens,
yep. That's
right?
also what I thought happened. Well, what did he say? He goes, I took care of his soul. What did he say?
He said he ate his soul,
Oh,
but he's
sorry. Yeah.
got blood all over his face, and he had just pulled out a knife. Like I don't know what else he could have done.
BRB, I'm dry heaving over here. Oh, yeah.
When he said like I got this, like that is not
That's not.
what I expected him to do.
No, I actually thought he was going. I mean, not not that my commentary is going to be any better for this moment, but I essentially thought he was like either going to cut him up and like bury him, or like genuinely take care of the body, not eat his heart.
So I imagine there is some level of ritual and tradition that sort of ties to what he did. I'm not aware of it yet, and I hope to do the research, or maybe someone can kind of inform me
Yeah.
on that. Staff at tasteofcountry.com, by the way, is the place. Not only the comment, we didn't give the address for the trivia question, but if you know the right
Oh,
answer about
yeah.
the country that Alexandria and Spencer meet, that's the address for there as well. So feel free to fill me in, and we'll
Yeah.
address it next Monday.
Yeah.
But from there, runs his horse and Pete, and Pete seems to be doing okay. He seems to be revived. They try to make it back to Hank and Teonna in time. They don't get there. The other two
Mm,
priests come upon them, and they figure out that Teonna is the boy named Joe. And it's a really violent scene, a really violent fight. And it looks like at first Hank has shot both priests,
yeah.
and they're safe. And he's trying to kind of carry Teonna back to his little shanty or his little shack there.
Hmm.
And it turns out the priest that Teonna had gouged his eye out, which was another difficult scene to watch, he lived.
Yeah.
And he shows up with a shotgun and kills Hank. And then Teonna finds the strength to find a boulder, and she smashes his head in, and then just sort of unloads her emotions right there and then.
I think something that this episode kind of got me thinking, and I'd love to hear people's thoughts. Staff at tasteofcountry.com. Obviously, and I haven't, like I preface all this is I haven't done a lot of research here, and I know a lot of this like is factual. Of a lot of this was happening, in the Catholic schools and all the above. But I am curious, like, has Taylor Sheridan taken it one step too far, where it's almost like this is an extreme? Do you know?
Right.
And I don't know that answer, but it just kind of got me thinking, where it's like, okay, have we taken this now too far?
I don't think he has with regards to this plot line. And
Okay.
I say that because I know that actor Mo Brings Plenty was among a number of sort of consultants that
Hmm.
all these shows have had, 1923, 1883 in Yellowstone. So I think at every turn, he is letting the people whose story he's telling be actively involved in that story.
Okay.
And that's really clear with the actress who plays Teonna, Amina Nieves. This is her very first acting role of any kind.
Gosh,
And
she's
she's
amazing.
relying yeah, well, I think it's because she's relying very much on stories she was told growing up. Like she
Hmm.
is a Crow, and the natives in 1923 are Crow. She speaks Crow, as does a couple of other characters. Like this is all very real to her. So the line between her acting and sort of reacting to stories it's very fine.
Wow.
So I think that's why I sort of trust him to tell this story and not sensationalize it a little
Yeah.
bit,
Yeah.
because I don't think those people would let him sensationalize it.
Well, that's good to know, because that definitely, like I said, that was kind of a thought, specifically this past episode, where I just kind of had a little check in with myself, I guess is what you could call it, of like, okay, how I'm just curious of like, is
Right.
this line been taken too far, or is it factual? Yeah, it was just something I was marinating on. So, but no, that's really cool insight.
The the question I think for this is what's going to happen with this plot line in episode 8. I think they're safe, right? There's no one else chasing after them. So episode 8 should find them sort of turning to their next mission, which is probably to go seek revenge on Father Renault in the Catholic boarding school. I don't know that necessarily we'll get there in episode 8. It may be setting up season 2, but we'll find out.
Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna have resolution there, but I do think that we're in the clear, and they're gonna, yeah, go back to the boarding school and seek
Yeah,
revenge.
pretty tragic. A lot of people died, and a lot of ancillary deaths as a part of this that were really sad, beginning with her cousin, her grandmother,
Hank.
Hank. There was quite a few. Very difficult to watch, but important, I think, to watch, and certainly important to talk about. I'm glad we led off with it today.
You know who I thought, which I was glad he didn't end up dying, because obviously Jacob and Jack go to, at first, Kara's worried that they're going to seek revenge on Banner and, essentially get themselves into even more trouble. Thankfully, he does get the sheriff involved. The sheriff comes, arrests Banner. But, oh my gosh, I was worried at the beginning. Elizabeth had said to Jack, she's like, be careful, Jack, and immediately I was like, that's it. he's gonna die. He's gonna die. She's already foreshadowed us. Like, please be careful. He's dead. He was dead, and I wrote him off in my mind. I was like, hey, Adison, just brace for impact. So I was pleasantly surprised and happy when, rather than that, we had a scene that was that was so like, I don't even know what word I'm looking for, of Kara and Elizabeth baking a cake, and Jacob and Jack do return home. So I was happy with that.
It was a rare sort of instance in the Yellowstone universe where a plan went as it was drawn up. Like, they arrest Banner and they get him to jail, and everybody returns home safely. Like, it was an uneventful day in town for the Duttons.
But and this is something I'm very curious about. So last episode, we were kind of marinating on the fact that the sheriff might be a mole, a snake in the grass. You know, we've hired Clyde. Right. You know, is he part of the situation? So for me personally, I feel like the sheriff now has a green light of like, maybe he's okay, considering he went and arrested Banner and didn't try to like lull that over. Or do you feel like this is absolutely just a ploy, totally just like smoke screen? Like, this is not, it's just a act.
Here's why I think the sheriff may be a good guy now.
Okay.
And I wouldn't say I'm 50-50, like I'm leaning towards the sheriff is a good guy, is because when the actual snake in the grass, and we called this one out correctly, in a little bit, I'll have to do a little bit of a mea culpa and apologize for an area where I was extremely off and wrong. But we called it correctly that Clyde, or Clive, I think he goes by two names, the redheaded, or as one of the people on YouTube referred to him as, the ginger, which made me laugh. The redheaded guy, who was the livestock agent, he's a mole. He's definitely working for Banner and Donald Whitfield. When he runs up to Whitfield and says, I just saw Jacob, they went and arrested Banner, and Whitfield's response isn't like, oh, I know. It doesn't seem like he knew this was coming or like this was part of his plan. He was genuinely surprised because he asks if they kill Banner or if they arrest him. And because he was surprised, I think the sheriff hadn't clued him in that Banner was going to be arrested. So that's my reasoning for believing that the sheriff is actually part of the good guys, is because Banner didn't know that was going to happen.
Hey, well, that's one thing that we might be accurate on. So I hate to bring this up, Bily. What were you inaccurate on?
All right, hold on. One note, quick, before we get to it. There, is it just me, or does Taylor Sheridan seem to have a little bit of a vendetta against the Irish? Like, usually when he presents a group of people, he shows sort of the good and the bad.
Okay.
But like, the Irish have been nothing but bad in 1923, from Banner to this redheaded sheeper. Like, all the people that have to do with the sheeping community seem to be nothing but villainous. Like some Irish guy stole one of Taylor's girlfriends back in college or something. Like,
and now he's journaling in therapeutic wise or therapy through the script of 1923.
It seems to be the case. But I suppose there's probably maybe there's an example of an Irishman that saves the day.
That can't say that thought has crossed my mind.
Okay, you had a question you're going to ask me, and I will ask for forgiveness at this point. Never mind. I'm so bad at sayings. I don't even know why I was trying to pull that one out. Beating around the bush, that's the saying. Beating around the bush.
Thank you. That's what we're doing. So what do we need to correct on?
One quick question. One more quick note here. Okay. With regards to Banner. He was just living his best life in that house, wasn't he? Just Hugh Hefner up in there. He's got a wife, but she's nowhere to be found. He's got the best looking prostitutes in town. He's just champagne, cigars, sexing it up and down the street in a silk robe. He's just having a bannerific good time, like he's been living that, no problem taking down Whitfield's money.
Well, it reminded me of, this is not necessarily a comparison, but because you're probably gonna be like, what is in Home Alone, where the young, I don't even remember what his name is when
Kevin.
Thank you. When Kevin is home alone and he's literally living his best life with all the candy, like he's just like living his best life. That's literally what I see Banner. Like, no parents, no rules. Essentially, he's home alone and is living his best life. Yeah, what you have
So
your hand raised, yes.
as Banner was pouring champagne on the naked woman's belly, your thought was Macaulay Culkin's character from Home Alone? That was the comparison you drew?
This seems so wrong. This is
There is
going
a
down such
sweetness to
a
that
dark.
I have to
I
just, aw,
no
but that
no
is
no
not
no
where my
no
mind went.
no no
But
no
good
no
on
no
you.
no. That's not what I mean. Pull up Adison. Ah. No no no. It just the irony. It just like more so like step back. Like let's not look into the nitty gritty of the situations here. Okay.
Yeah.
Billy, we're gonna get
Okay.
bad emails now. Thank you.
Direct them to staff@tastedcountry.com. CC Adison at.
Yeah, label Addison, so we know. No, I did. I will say the Donald Whitfield one when the prostitutes were still in the home. I don't know if you want to pivot there, but I feel like that at some point I was like, all right, like Taylor, what is the point? Like I did feel like we were beating the scene with a dead horse. Like it.
Okay.
At some point, I was like, this is a lot.
Yeah, it was gratuitous. It was gratuitous,
That's
no
a
doubt
nice
about
word.
it. Like it didn't, like we did after the Teonna scenes, we didn't need to see Whitfield just sitting back and enjoying watching two prostitutes spank each other. Like that didn't make. I agree
Right.
with you there.
That was one of the Taylor Sheridan moments where I was like, bro, we're like not needed. Not needed.
Okay, nothing else to talk about. I think we can pretty much wrap up this segment of. All right, here's the thing. I took a chance on a theory with regards to Alex, and maybe she caught tuberculosis from the captain, Captain Luca, because he was coughing up. There was a lot of holes in that theory that I'm now willing to recognize. I was wrong. She seems to be
Uh-huh.
healthy and happy and cheerful,
Uh-huh.
even a little bit spunky,
Uh-huh.
I think you would say. Um, it's not even clear that the captain had tuberculosis. A lot of people mentioned that his lungs could have just been infected with some sort of mustard gas issue from the war. Maybe he had lung cancer because he was just
Correct.
smoking like it was
Correct.
going
Like
out
a
of style.
chimney, yes.
And the timeline didn't really sync up because she had really just met the guy like a
Correct.
day prior at most. So
Correct.
like she wouldn't be caught. So yeah, definitely that was a bad theory.
I
A
just
lot
let
of
you
people
run with it
pointed that out.
though. Yeah, I thought cough
You did.
of just how the scene went. But yeah, no, she's very much so alive. And interesting, I didn't love how we ended this episode. I'm very curious of like how we're gonna like go from there. Like I thought it was very interesting. So what happens is, Spencer and Alex enjoying each other in Italy, right? They're in Italy now.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And lo and behold, they come upon her parents just happen to run into her with her ex-fiance, which also I'm like, why are your parents hanging out with your ex-fiance? Like if I have an ex-fiance and I like run up to my parents, I like hope they're not hanging out with him.
Totally. It was silly. Like those
Yeah.
old women were literally clutching their pearls, like literal pearls literally clutched as that weenie of a man says, Alexandria. And they're like, what are you gonna do to Spencer? Like Spencer's gonna come on.
Yeah,
Dude, just
literally.
carry on, take the L. You are done with. Like this plot line matters none. It is not after what they've been through, it is not going to be an obstacle in terms of Alex and Spencer getting to America.
Well, and Alex looks so afraid. Like shock wasn't even really. She looks concerned, which I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd be concerned too if I randomly showed up with my parent, like saw my parents with my ex fiance in a place I didn't expect. And like, I don't get you wrong, her fear is merited, but I did kind of think like, homegirl, you're your own person. Like, are you worried that your parents are going to say, "All right, pack your bags, Alex, you're coming home with us"? Like,
Right.
no,
Yeah.
come on.
After everything she's been through.
Yeah.
Did you get, and maybe you never watched this movie, but did you get Rick in Casablanca vibes from this, like that quote, that scene where he's like, of all the gin joints in all the world, why did she have to come walking into mine? Like, what are the damn odds that they're going to find her at that seaside cafe in Malta? Like, it is. And this
I
goes
will.
back to the trivia question about how far they came. Like if you Google map it, it's a good 5,000 miles between where they were and where they are now. So I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
just go buy a lottery ticket. This is an unbelievable coincidence.
It's one of those like, yeah, what are the odds that this would actually happen in reality? But yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious what this does to the plot. The only thing that I can think of is that they're going to kind of put up a fight, try to make Alex come back home with them, and I don't foresee that actually happening. But I just think it
No,
adds drama to the love, drama to the romance.
that's fine. It was a little playful thing. I think in episode 8, their journey will continue.
Yeah.
There may be some more adventure, but I think what's going to happen, I've said this, I guess, for a couple of weeks now, is as episode 8 comes to a close, there's going to be something horrible happening at the ranch. And then that's just when Spencer is going to arrive. And it's going to be this huge cliffhanger with Spencer like there now, but the ranch and like literally or metaphorically on fire.
Well, something to kind of remember is that in this episode we see Banner in jail, but his attorney comes and he's pretty confident he's going to be able to get Banner out of jail. So I do
Right.
foresee all hell breaking loose, and Banner's now absolutely going to come for revenge. So Banner's not locked up for good, and unfortunately, Kara and them have potentially prematurely taken a breath.
Do you think Elizabeth is pregnant now?
No.
Are you more convinced that she's pregnant? You're not.
No,
So you don't think
I've consistently, Bily, held to the fact that I do not think she's pregnant.
Do you think she's not pregnant, not just that she's going to lose the baby? You think like there's no baby in there at all?
No, I said miscarriage in the beginning, and I still hold to that. I don't think she's going to go full term.
Okay. This is a bit of a source of conversation in the comment section on YouTube, and maybe there's even a Reddit thread about it as well, about if she's pregnant or what's going to happen to that baby. But there are a number of skeptics like yourself who think somehow, some way that baby's not coming.
Do they think that she's not pregnant at all, or they do think that she is pregnant, but she's not going to carry to full term? Or
most people, I think, are leaning into she's not pregnant. Like the shooting messed her up to the point where it's kind of messed up her reproductive cycle, so that what she's seeing as being pregnant is really just
her body and trauma.
A result of her body and trauma, and then maybe the result of. I mean, she mentioned that she was nauseated, but that didn't seem to last all that long for her. So maybe she just ate some bad meat or something.
Gosh, that's one thing to really get wrong: bad meat or a baby.
Yeah, I don't know. So I think she's pregnant. I'm going to go down as saying that I think she's pregnant and she's going to have this baby.
I think Alex and Spencer are going to have a baby, but that's just where I'm going.
This ain't it. Okay, fair enough. We'll have to watch this. Again, I don't think we'll find out in episode 8, but we might know more.
As always, staff at tasteofcountry.com is where you can leave your comments, corrections, concerns. Hopefully there's no concerns. But yeah, always love hearing your thoughts. Yeah, do you think Elizabeth is pregnant? Or do you think she's not pregnant? Or do you think she's going to carry the baby to full term? We haven't talked about that option, Bily.
A lot of questions.
Yeah, so many questions. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to touch on before I get to fan comments?
No, see, the comments are pretty spicy, so let's get right to it.
Alrighty. Yeah, they're long. Okay, K Jiggity from YouTube, we're already starting off strong, says if Alex does get sick, so be it. I'm at the point where her character is starting to be annoying, and I don't care much for relationship between her and Spencer. Their segment in the storyline is the weakest. He's better off without her. I'm in for Jack and Elizabeth and Jacob and Kara, the real stars of the show.
An Alex hater.
Yeah, he's
our first.
Kind of like I feel like this is the disdain that people have against Monica. Same vibe.
I don't agree with him, but I do understand it. Like she's like the more and more like she just talks so dang much. Like
no, I actually agree
as
with
a
you.
Man, like I just give. Spencer's been through a heck of a lot, and he's carried the load here as far as he's done the heavy lifting. Let the man sleep, for Pete's sake. You know, I mean, just quiet. You gotta give. He's a solitary man who's used to quiet. I'm not going to tell her to shut up, but he's used to quiet. You have to understand that. And maybe go find a book to read for an hour or two in the room with him before waking him up. That's all he needs.
I do think that sometimes she antagonizes situations that I'm like, okay, we really didn't have to do that. So, but I still like her and I still like them together. But yeah,
I'm
I
still
don't.
on board, but I understand Kay
Same.
Jiggity's point of view, I guess.
Alrighty, I have our trivia winner from last week, Scott, who says, I really appreciate the show and look forward to each week's episode. In an era where people are becoming so attuned to binging a whole season without taking the time to process each episode, it's nice to take each one in the same way as I grew up in the 80s and have the podcast there to increase the enjoyment of each episode. Keep up the great work. Wow. Thank you, Scott.
I liked this email because it sort of brought up what I think is true, is that this isn't a show you binge necessarily. I think a lot of people are in it for the episode to episode drama and the wait the week and the conversation, and that is a little bit old school. My wife and I, we just binged through Wednesday, but we didn't. I'm not a binger. I don't have the sort of attention span to sit down and watch 2-3 episodes at a time. So it took us a while to get through that show Wednesday on Netflix. So I like Scott in that way, but I think a lot of shows just get released all at once and binged through in a matter of it. So I appreciated that response, and I think he's right. I think that people are watching this show a little bit differently than they do a lot of shows on television.
Alrighty, our last one is Les from our YouTube comments, who says, I believe your theory that Alex doesn't make it to season 2 is wrong. Why would they spend a whole season developing a character and relationship with Spencer just to end it in episode 8? She has become one of the main attractions, and seeing how she copes with life on a ranch in Montana has become a major magnet for the next season. Do you really think they will offer before she meets Kara that there's far too much interest in her character to let her go too soon? I do agree with Les. I don't think she's going away.
I agree with all the points he makes, but my rebuttal would be, have you met Taylor Sheridan? Because this is kind of the thing he does.
I mean, true. But
I did apologize for the Alex tuberculosis theory, but I don't know that I'm 100% backed off the idea that she doesn't die before the end of episode 8. I think if I was a bet man, I think we'll see her in season 2, because I think there's too much plot left there. I think Alex and Spencer really have to have some sort of impact on season 2. And he's right. There's got to be some sort of Kara and Alex dynamic that forms. But at the end of the day, I still don't think she's long for this world.
I think they're currently filming 1923. And the reason why I say that is I follow Michelle Randolph, who I would love to meet, but that's a complete side tangent. Anyways, I follow her on Instagram, and her caption was life right now. And it's them in, I don't know if on Montana, but it is snowing out there, unless she just posted it super late. But it's all these Polaroid pictures of all the girls and like what they're doing on set, et cetera, et cetera. So that's just interesting to note.
Well, a little bit more sort of news with regards to the Yellowstone universe. Maybe not so much news as clarification. A lot of people think that with this sort of leak of the show 1943 or 1944, that's going to be Matthew McConaughey's show, because he's mentioned as a possible protagonist. I don't know that that's necessarily true. I don't know that we should assume that by any means. Nor do I think we should assume with any finality that Kevin Costner is done on Yellowstone. Like, I believe that was a negotiating ploy by one side or the other to get him back for a full second half of this season. And then we might find out a little bit more about what's coming next on Yellowstone and Matthew McConaughey's character. So a lot of unknowns there. Don't take any of that to the bank. I think in some ways, they're manipulating the media and the viewer to kind of fulfill contractual needs.
It's working.
Definitely working, because we're talking about it and we're forming opinions on it and all of that. Yeah. So we're a happy pawn in their game, I suppose.
Alrighty. Well, staff at tasteofcountry.com again is where you can leave all your thoughts and comments in this week's trivia question. And truly, as always, it means a lot when you guys leave ratings and reviews. And we always thoroughly enjoy reading through comments. So thanks again for always taking the time to do that. I know it takes time from your day, so much appreciated.
We're nearing our 200th rating on Apple Podcasts, which we really appreciate. More 5-star ratings, the better on either that or Spotify, and then reviews on Apple, which are always a ton of fun to read and have been mostly positive, but we appreciate the negative ones as well because it kind of helps us shape the show a little bit.
As always, the Dutton Rules Yellowstone 1923 podcast is another juicy Townsquare Media podcast.